Microsoft Excel? Well, you've come to the right place. In this video, I'll show you how you can download Microsoft Excel, how to download a free version of Microsoft Excel, as well as walk you through the layout of Microsoft Excel. Welcome back to my channel. This is the first video in a brand new series where I'm going to teach you all about Microsoft Excel. This series will basically function as a Microsoft Excel course, except it will be right here for free on YouTube. Another thing that will set this course aside from many other tutorials that you'll see on YouTube is I have made this whole course to be very interactive. At the top link in the description, you can download the exact data that I'll be working with in this course. You can work along with me. You could watch it through the first time and see how I do it and then try to do it on your own, whatever works best for you. And as a part of this video, I will show you exactly how to download it again so you can work along with me. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. First, I'm going to show you how you can download Microsoft Excel, and then I'll show you how to download the data we'll be working with, and then after that, I'll walk you through the layout of Microsoft Excel. Okay, starting off, here's where you can download the full version of Microsoft Excel Desktop. In addition to getting Microsoft Excel, these memberships also come with all of these other Microsoft apps. And you have a few versions for downloading depending on what works best for you. You can download the monthly version for $9.99 a month. You can get the yearly subscription for $129.99 a year, which equates to $12.99 a month. And then you can also try the yearly version for 1 month free. So if you want to try to just learn Microsoft Excel as much as you can within a month, you could always just try this free trial. Just make sure you delete it on time. Another option is Microsoft 365 Online. With Microsoft 365 Online, you can get free versions of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint that you'll use right within your browser. The thing to take note of here is that the free version of Excel does not have all of the capabilities of the paid version, but you can definitely get started with it, and you can do many of the things that we'll be learning in this series using the free version of Excel, but again, just keep in mind that certain features may not be available. And whichever version of Microsoft Excel you want to start with, I'll have both of these links down in the description. And what's going to make this course worth the most to you is that you work along with me, and to help you with that, I have all of the data that we'll be using in this course linked right here. So all you have to do is go to the link in my description, which will bring you to this page. Then you can click on this link right here, and then just use this button to download the data. Alright, cool. Now that we've walked through all of the different downloads, let's get started. Just FYI, for every video in this series, I'll be using the paid version of Microsoft Excel Desktop, but if you want to try the free version, feel free to go ahead. So when you first open Microsoft Excel, you'll be brought to this opening page. Here you can start fresh with a blank workbook. You can select one of these different tutorials to help get you started. There's also a bunch of templates like this personal monthly budget. And then down here are Excel files that you've used and saved in the past. So if you want to continue from where you left off, this is where you will open those. For us, we'll be using the Excel that is linked in my GitHub. So we will click right here to open it up. So if you've never seen Microsoft Excel before, this is what it looks like. Over here on the left side, we have all of these different rows denoted by numbers. And then we have a bunch of columns across the top denoted by letters. Once you combine the rows with columns, you get all of these little rectangles throughout, and these little rectangles are called cells. The great thing about having all of the columns and rows labeled is that if we want to bring attention to a certain cell, we can easily do that. For example, if we want to bring attention to cell E5, we just come over here to E and then go to row 5, and here we'll find cell E5. Now, before we look into a lot of the different functions of Excel, let's bring our attention down here to the different tabs, also known as worksheets. Down here, we have a lot of different tabs that contain different data that we'll be using for different videos in this series. And this is the walkthrough video, so I have it labeled walkthrough. So let's see a little bit about what you can do with these tabs. If you want to rename a tab, all you have to do is double click on it, then you can rename the tab whatever you want. If you right click on the tab, you can do a lot of different things, like you can hide the tab, and then all you have to do is right click on a different tab and you can unhide it. You can choose a tab color, so if we wanted to make this walkthrough tab green, we could do that, and if we click on another, you can see that it is now green. You can also use this right click to delete, rename, move or copy, as well as several other functions whenever you want to manage your tabs. And as I said, these tabs are also referred to as different worksheets, whereas the Excel file as a whole, so all of these worksheets combined, are commonly referred to as a workbook. All right, back to the worksheet. So if you want to enter data or anything into a certain cell, all you have to do is click on that cell, and I'm just going to put my name right here, and then you can start entering whatever you want to type in. You can type in letters, you can type in numbers, and as we'll get to in this series, you can also do different functions to manipulate the data that you have in your worksheet. One thing to note is that if you want to change the value in one of your cells, if you just click on the cell and start typing, that will delete what you had there. So I'm going to hit Control Z to take me back to the original value. Control Z just does an undo, which you can also do up here. So if you just want to edit what you've already typed, say we need to have this number end in a 9 instead of an 8, you can click on the cell and then come up here to the formula bar, and here you could do more specific edits. So that's how you enter data into a certain cell. Now let's look back at the columns and the rows and how to manage those. The cool thing about Microsoft Excel is you can choose the width of your columns and the height of your rows. So say we don't want this column to be wider than this column header. All we have to do is click on the side of the column and we can move it back and forth to make it as wide as we want. Also, if we want Excel to just make it perfectly wide enough for our longest value, all you have to do is double click and then it is perfectly long enough for Captain America here, which is our longest column. And you can also do this for multiple columns at once if you just select the columns that you want to auto-fit and then double click on one of those, and now they are all the perfect size for the data within. And you can also mess with the row heights as well, but usually that doesn't come up much for me, but it's there if you need it. Alright, now let's direct our attention to this toolbar above. For the rest of this video, I'm going to briefly walk you through a lot of the things you can do in Excel by using these different tool tabs here at the top. Starting off with this Home tab, this has a lot of the functions that I use all of the time as a senior data analyst. Starting over here, you have various formatting options. You can click on a certain cell, you can make it bold, you can make it italics, you can make it underlined, you could highlight it, you could change the color of the highlight. There's a lot of great options here depending on what you're working on, so definitely get used to formatting in Excel. I'm going to go ahead and undo these so we can still read what we're working with. If you come over to this alignment tab, you can do a lot of cool things. You can center your text, you can make it more to the right. You can change the orientation if that's something that you need to do for some reason. I honestly never do that. You can wrap the text, so if you have a lot of text, this is a good way to format it where it is readable in your Excel. You can merge cells, so this puts a couple of cells together. This is what that looks like, and I'll just undo that again. Then over here we have conditional formatting, which I'll make a full video about later in this series. We have some different functions right here if we want to insert, delete, or format cells. And then over here we have some sorting and filtering functions, and again we'll get to that later in the series. Moving on to this Insert tab, this is a tab that I use a lot as a senior data analyst. You can use it to insert a pivot table, which again I'll be making a full video about later in this series. You can insert a table, you can insert charts and graphs, and those three things are what I use this tab for most. But there are also some other really useful functions over here with the line column and win-loss charts, so be sure to look into those. But pivot tables and charts are something you're likely going to use in Excel, so I highly recommend you get familiar with those, and a good way to do that is just to stay tuned in this series. Next is the Draw tab. I'll be honest, this is something I never ever use, but if you want to choose a marker and draw something in your worksheet, you're more than welcome to. Moving on to the Page Layout tab, here you can do a lot of changes. You can choose a theme for your Excel, you can mess with the margins, the orientation of the worksheet, as well as you can remove the grid lines if that's something that you would prefer to do or if it helps you with the project. So this is another really good tab to help you format your worksheet. Next, moving on to formulas, this is another super useful tab up here. This is a really good place to start learning about different formulas. It has it broken down through logical, text, date and time, lookup and reference. So if you just want to come in here and play around with all of these different formulas, that's definitely a good way to see what all Excel has to offer. And there's also a lot of different functions over here on the right side of the tab, but I'll be honest, I've hardly used any of these functions, so I won't go into detail here. Next is the data tab. One function that I use here a lot is this refresh. If you have a table of data or maybe a pivot table that is connected to a worksheet, sometimes whenever you add data, you need to come in here and refresh it. So that's the main thing I use on this tab, but there are many other useful functions here like sort and filter, which are also available on some other tabs. And then this text to columns can be really helpful if you check that out. Next is review. I don't use this tab a lot, but if you want to add comments to your Microsoft Excel like some people do, you can do that right here. You can also do spell checks. You can use the thesaurus if you need help coming up with different words. So definitely come and play around over here if you'd like to. Next is this view page. There's a lot of useful stuff here, but I honestly don't use this much on my job. But again, come check it out if you want to. And then last is this help tab. This is a good place to come get support if you're struggling with something. You can also check out these links to community in the Excel blog. So come play around in this tab as well. Honestly, it's a good policy just to play around with everything in Excel because once you've played around with it enough, you'll start to know where things are at once you need them. And then last is this file tab. This is where you can start a new workbook. You can open up an existing workbook. You can share a workbook with somebody else. You can save a workbook, or you can print out a workbook or just an individual worksheet. And then down here, some good account options as well as just general options for Excel. Sometimes there are certain functions of Excel that are turned on or off that you may want to mess with, and you can do all of that using this options button. Oh, one last thing you can do if you ever want to zoom in on an Excel, this might be useful to do if you're in a video meeting and it's hard for the people that you're working with to see what you're working on. You can come right down here and make the worksheet more zoomed in, or you can zoom out in the same way. But this is something that is useful from time to time, depending on what data you're working with or if you're showing data in a meeting. So it's good to know this exists. Anyway, I hope this video helps. I very well could have left something out because Microsoft Excel can do a million things and I was never going to get to them all. But whatever level of an Excel user you are, I hope that you'll tune in for the rest of this series. I'm going to cover many of the most important functions that you'll use whether you're a data analyst or in any other kind of role that uses Microsoft Excel. And whether you want to become a data analyst or you want to become a genius Excel user, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. I post a brand new video every single week helping you become the best data analyst or Excel user that you can be. And with that, I'll see you next week.